Hey there guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode in our best class setups in Modern Warfare series. Today we are of course taking a look at the M91, which did receive a little bit of a buff in the latest balance patch, which did receive an increase to its near damage and of course an increase to its aim down sight speed. Increasing the aim down sight speed on LMGs is always a beneficial thing, but we're going to take a look at this thing here today because it's fairly interesting. Of course, it's not going to be as powerful as some of the other LMGs with those detachable magazines, but I still feel like this is a fairly good option and is a necessary one if you are going to unlock those like Damascus camos and stuff like that. You will need an M91 class eventually. Just before we do get into talking about our class setup here, let's try and get this one to 20 likes. The support from you guys has continued to be absolutely fantastic recently. I think we're still working towards 3,000 subscribers, which is very, very exciting. So make sure you hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on if you have not already done so, because it does very much help me out, and of course I do very much appreciate it. So let's just jump straight into our M91 class here because it's fairly interesting. It's a fairly interesting weapon to talk about, so let's do it here. Of course, as I said, the M91 is still going to be an interesting weapon for most of you. A lot of people don't actually prefer the way LMGs play. They're sluggish, they're slow, they kind of move around and aim down sight kind of slowly, so we do want to limit that as much as possible. Being able to get those sights up at least a little bit more quickly than usual is very, very important, and once we do get those sights on target, LMGs are actually very, very powerful as they do have a reduced flinch multiplier, so once you do get shot while you are aimed down sight, your aim actually is quite consistent. So of course, starting us off with our secondary here, we are taking a look at the Akimbo M19. Akimbo M19 and the M91 are very, very confusing names, so if I do mix those up, do forgive me. Basically, we would just want a close range option set up like this with the monolithic suppressor, the XRKL super barrel, the 5mW laser, the lightweight trigger, and of course the Akimbo perk. Basically, we pull these out if anybody does get too close to us, and we can pretty consistently blast them away. In our perk slot, we want EOD, Ghost, and Tracker. These are very, very standard options for most of my class. They don't change too often. EOD for that explosive resistance, Ghost for staying off of those UAVs, Tracker just to be able to see those enemy footprints is very, very powerful. You could of course swap these out because this is an LMG. You could of course swap these out for a more slow setup with that restock and that shrapnel, as well as something like a proximity mine or a claymore. But of course, we're just going with the C4 here. Just being able to chuck it over walls and around corners is very, very powerful. Get easy kills, and of course the stim shot in the tactical slot is one of the most powerful options in the game. So as I said, the M91 is an interesting beast. It's always going to be one of those weapons that does handle quite slowly, as that's just what LMGs do. It doesn't have that detachable magazine or anything like that, so we're stuck with the belt-fed stuff, and we want to make this as efficient as possible and as nice and tidy to get those sights up nice and quickly while still maintaining that damage range and that accuracy that LMGs are known for. So starting us off here with that monolithic suppressor, basically we want to get that sound suppression, damage range, as well as the increase to our bullet velocity of about 10 to 15%. This is a very, very powerful option for most weapons in the game. Basically, we just want to get those shots on target as far away as possible. This is super, super strong here for most weapons, and you already know that really. Of course, we want the tac laser here in that aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking steadiness for the laser slot. Pretty good option here. One of those options that does basically get our sights up nice and quickly. Again, as we've talked about before, getting the sights up nice and quick with most LMGs is very, very strong here. In the stock slot, we are taking the no stock. Now, these class setups would have been much more powerful. Like all these LMG setups would have been much, much more powerful with that no stock being the way it used to be. Basically, when they did reduce that recoil control that you do get, the movement speed and aim down sight speed became one of those benefits that was a little bit shaky on a lot of weapons, but I still feel like it is worth it here for that no stock, for that movement speed, aim down sight speed. Super, super strong, basically moving around nice and quickly here. I think the stock movement speed for most LMGs is about 93-94% of your normal movement speed, and this is increasing it by about 4%, which is a really, really good option here, of course. Moving to the underbarrel, we want that Merc foregrip as well. That recoil control, hip fire accuracy, as well as about, again, a 4% increase to our movement speed, one of the better options for this particular weapon. Basically, this does help counter the effects of that no stock nerf. That recoil control really just let us hit our targets nice and easily. Commando foregrip, always a nice option as well for that recoil stabilization and aiming stability. This is sort of a toss up here. You can pretty much choose whatever you like. This doesn't reduce our aim down sight speed, but this does give us a little bit more movement speed. So this is of course up to you. And lastly, the stippled grip tape, of course, that aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, some of the best stats that you can get in the game. If you aren't really interested in these particular iron sights or something like that, you could probably drop the tac laser and take like a GI mini reflex or something like that. Or you can take something like the sleight of hand. We do have a lot of ammo to shoot. I think it's 100 round belt fed, so sleight of hand can come in handy here, especially since it does take a long time to reload this. We are going to jump into some gameplay here with the M91 because this is a cool weapon. I think it's one of the more interesting LMGs in the game. Alrighty, so as you may know, Crash is one of those maps which does feature kind of a broken section in which you can just hold down these bigger buildings with really no effort, and then when the enemy starts spawning in the right spot, basically the game is already a lock. If we take control of this main floor with a bouncing Betty and then chuck a second one in the bottom there, we can sort of move up to the top and make use of the high ground here, which is very, very advantageous for us here, of course. I mean, we are kind of vulnerable here, like we can get taken out fairly easily. But I mean, just being on this high ground is super, super strong. Like it's sort of something that you can't really beat a lot of the time. I mean, it's interesting. And then they just sort of flanked around the back there. But we want to be spawning in this particular blue building here. If you can control this on crash, like you basically have control of the entire map. This is especially effective on domination, but it still works here. You can see the LMG does have kind of slow fire. Like, it's not the fastest firing weapon in the game, and that can cause it to suffer a little bit at those close range fights. Like, I've come up against a number of times, like, just losing fights at close range just because the damage at those close range distances just isn't enough sometimes. Like, there isn't enough punch. But it's still a fairly decent weapon, and eventually if you are going for like those Damascus camos and stuff like that, you'll need a decent M91 class, and hopefully this can help some of you guys out. I know a lot of you have been asking for more of the LMGs, as some of you guys are struggling with classes and stuff like that for them, so I figured I would oblige here and help you guys out. Maybe close the door. Maybe just close the door. Although, as time does go on in this particular year's Call of Duty, people are becoming more aware of this particular spot, like just how strong it is, and they're trying to shoot you out a lot of the time. But if you're playing against people who don't really know what's going on a lot of the time, you can pretty much control the entire map from this building. Especially when the spawns do play in your favor. Sometimes you can have people spawning back there, and you'll be in this building. And of course, it does take a long time to reload, so sleight of hand is a recommendation, but I feel like if we get the chance, we can reload most of the time pretty successfully. It's not too big of a deal. It, of course, would always be nice to have a little bit of another sight on these particular weapons, but I mean, like, what are you going to do? You make the best with what you got. Like, those attachment slots are very valuable a lot of the time, and an optic does make us quite slow, so it's one of those trade-offs you have to make sometimes. There is a man back there, but he's going to be very difficult to kill. Okay, somebody died over here, meaning somebody is coming in here. Or they're already in here. Just dance past the window, everything is fine. Is there somebody coming in here? I'm confused. And I'm out of lethals. This is fine. Pull out the pistols if we want to go close range. Like, this is... Ugh, Jesus. Just chill. Chill. Okay, so they definitely are spawning quite close to us here, so we have to be kind of careful with how we want to play this. No, he pushed up on us too quickly. I was trying to talk. I was trying to make my mind up as to what I wanted to do. Of course, as with most weapons in this particular game, they will always be boosted by these stopping power rounds. Oh! No, don't. You didn't use them there. You did not. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes you'll pull the stopping power rounds out and you will die basically immediately, as happens to me most of the time. Like, I'll throw these bad boys on and then I will immediately get killed. Like, that is basically my entire experience with this particular game. And it happens sometimes. You have to deal with it. That's how it goes, you know. Of course, we are playing very well, as I kind of didn't warm up for this. Like, I don't really warm up for any of these gameplays a lot of the time. Sometimes I just jump into a game and I'm like, man, let's play some Call of Duty and record it and make people laugh at how bad we are. But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. You don't worry about it too much. If you start getting these bullets down range, though, like, it's good. Like, it is a fun weapon. It's just not really a weapon that is able to be pushed with, like, it's not a rushing weapon by any stretch of the imagination. This is a weapon that you do have to play kind of slowly with. The recoil's pretty manageable for the most part. Like, it doesn't, like, bounce around too much. A lot of the... A bad situation to be in. Then we got taken out by the Bruin, which is still a very, very powerful LMG that we haven't taken a look at yet as of the most recent patch, which was one of those weapons that did get touched quite nicely. Jeez. Suppressing fire, that man, and we got the headshot apparently. Alright, we're going to have our final thoughts on this particular weapon in just a second, because it's fairly cool. I like it a lot. Alrighty, what do we think of this particular M91 class Well, it's interesting. It's not never going to be the most powerful weapon in the game unless something does drastically change with the damage numbers and stuff like that. Like, unless it becomes a two-shot for some reason, well, it's not going to be super powerful. But it is one of those weapons that's going to be fairly consistent if you do like the way LMGs play. I feel like the M91 is always going to be kind of overlooked by people who are just regular assault rifle users and stuff like that, and that's fine. Some people do like the way LMGs play, and that's cool. That's why I make these class setups for pretty much everyone. Thank you very much for watching this one, guys. I do appreciate it, of course. Let's try and get this one to 20 likes, as I said in the start of the video, and if you haven't already done so, to make sure to subscribe with those notifications turned on, just in case you don't want to miss out on any of the upcoming content. Loads of stuff lined up. I got a very spicy AN94 class setup coming up very soon. It's kind of dumb, but I love it a lot. So thank you very much for watching this one. I do appreciate it, as I said, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!